Hello everyone, you are all welcome to lecture number 1323 and today's topic is FRAMINGHAM study of heart attack risk factors. It's a very interesting study and FRAMINGHAM is in Massachusetts, that is in America, United States is one of the city, and there some of the scientists, chemists, cardiologists, they formed a group that was in 1948, and their aim and objective was to study the diverse group of three generations: grandfather, father, and children of the same family. And in that study, more than 1,000 people were involved, and they published more than 6,000 research papers in the journals, and it is very bulky, and I have gone through all those factors, and in the form of abstract or summary I noted down, and in the summary we can see that this FRAMINGHAM group of scientists, their study was focused on two factors. One, experimental science. One was on the basis of, that is, experimental study, and second is observational. And I call them, that is, experimental science. Experimental science and observational science. These two scientific approach was taken. So first is, that is, scientific experimental approach and study on the basis of different tests, instrumentational tests like scanning, MRI, then ultrasound, lab tests like pathology, biochemical tests to check all the parameters. And second very important test was, that is, observational science, means to keep them under observation. So under observation means to study their behavior, lifestyle, eating habits, what type of stress they are having, so many factors. So after all factors and combining the experimental science, observational science, they found that the highest risk factor for heart attack or cardiovascular disease is blood pressure. According to FRAMINGHAM, first factor is BP, high BP. They found that in that study, extensive and expensive study of more than half century, where 1,500 families were involved in three generations, and very careful observational science and experimental science found that the first factor of heart failure, heart attack, heart stroke is high blood pressure. And they established that the blood pressure at any cost should be controlled between 120 to 80. Systolic, diastolic. And if it is exceeding, your risk factor will increase. So their recommendation is that on the basis of experimentation and observational science, that if you are controlling your high blood pressure, it means it is first risk factor is controlled. The second risk factor, according to FRAMINGHAM report or study, is cholesterol. The second very dangerous risk factor is cholesterol. Cholesterol, if I am saying in the year 2025, is having lot of observation and experimentation, because in 70s, 80s, it was high cholesterol or low cholesterol. It's not like that. According to their study, they have mentioned that the cholesterol is in three fragments. One is LDL, low density lipoprotein, that is called bad cholesterol. Then LPA, low density lipoprotein, APO. And third one is, that is high density HDL, that is your good cholesterol. Their ratio, their percentage from childhood was under observation. That's why latest publication is, where I have already delivered one lecture, that everybody should go to know and test lipoprotein APO, LPA. It's a very, very silent factor. And as per their observational science and study, they have mentioned that the second very risky factor or dangerous factor is your cholesterol. And that cholesterol is to know HDL, LDL ratio and LPA. That is second factor they have mentioned. Third factor they have mentioned in their study is smoking. Third is this high risk factor is smoking. Smoking, if I am saying, means two group of people are there. One, those who are taking tobacco. And tobacco is very rich source of alkaloid that is called nicotine. So in the form of nicotine, that nicotine is converted into nitrate, nitrogenous substance, and once you are taking, it is going to damage your lot of normal cells, your lung cells. It will be deposited, and slowly it will be very, very dangerous, and there is maximum chance of heart attack risk. And second group are those who are chewing this same tobacco. It's very common in African and Asian countries. That is also equally harmful. It's all mentioned in their research study of more than half century. Almost now it is getting 75 years. And it's that group, FRAMINGHAM group, is still, they are working. But what I am discussing is here, their 75 years, extensive and expensive research was concentrated and focused on cardiovascular disease. Nowadays, they are busy. They are very much focused on longevity. Means how to add the years. Addition of year means 120, 150 year youth with youthfulness. It's not that only we should add the number and they are lying on wheelchair or bed. No, they should have very active physical life. So that is this third factor. And then fourth factor, they have mentioned weight, obesity. Obesity kills people. They have mentioned the research. If you are carrying extra weight, you are obese, and you are not following the weight as per your height, that is in the form of density. So you are at high risk. So at any cost, it is very important, if you want to reduce the risk factor of heart attack, maintain your weight. And if you are obese, all these standard, you can go to your doctor, cardiologist, discuss this issue. They will advise you. And the fifth factor they have mentioned, that is your physical inactivity. Physical inactivity means the people are not doing any exercise and they are just having lazy going, easy going life and careless life. That is also one of the big risk factor in all diversified group of the people, different sex, means male, female, Asian, African, then European, all races was, studied. And of course, this factor, that is physical inactivity. So at whatever is their recommendation, that at least every day you do some exercise. Walking is the best exercise. If you are walking, your two hearts are involved. One which is in your leg, thigh, this near your joint, and then second is heart is here. So that will be pumping more blood, and in that case your heart will be getting enough oxygen and blood. And the sixth factor they have mentioned, they have mentioned, that is balanced diet, or we call it nowadays is very common in is part of our lifestyle of going and taking junk food. When we say junk food, means you are not knowing what is there inside. It's deep fried, suya, omelette, and then roasted meat, kebab. So many varieties are there which are deep fried or roasted, and they are very high in fat, especially the trans fat, saturated fat. So according to them, that you have to go for balanced diet, means up to 80%, 75 to 80%, there should be fruit and colored vegetables, because these colored fruit and vegetables, they are rich source of antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds, and there is no doubt that these two compounds, they are taking care of your heart risk. If in case you are taking such type of food which are rich in antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, it means that drastically the oxidative stress and inflammatory stress will be reduced, and the high risk of your heart as well as cancer is also reduced. Then the other last factor, but not least, is sleep. Don't compromise your sleep. Once you are compromising your sleep, is another factor of heart attack or cardiovascular disease, according to their study. So these are all 7 factors they have mentioned in their study and they have recommended to follow them. And one very interesting thing, if you go to Framingham Heart study on Google, if you type, they have their website and they have published these, and they call it calculation of a risk factor on the basis of Framingham study. So they have the one format, one form is there. I have already filled and I have gone through it. Your age, your weight, your cholesterol level, your BP, your lifestyle, sleep disorder. If you mention all questionnaire you answer, immediately your risk factor will come that you are at high risk, medium risk, or low risk. They have the three, observations that is under observational science: low risk, medium risk, and high risk. So immediately it will come 20. They give in percentage. Everybody, it is free. Nowadays, it is actually database. They have created thousands of data, and on the basis of that data, it is all artificial intelligence is working, and you just fill your whole life style, your all pathological, also biochemical, all data, you just fill it, and in most of the cases it is there tick mark, yes and no. Cholesterol level, blood pressure, is it 120/80 or 180 or 90, something like that. Then what food you are eating every day, your behavior towards your lifestyle, all factors if you fill, immediately once you click, your risk factor will be there, whether it is 20%, 40%, 80% risk. If it is high risk factor, then their recommendation will be there. So this is very, very interesting tool, application on Google, and it is my advice, anybody can go and check their risk factor of cardiovascular problem. So here I have given the abstract or summary of Framingham study of heart risk and 6,000 research publications. So I have just concluded in the form of summary of all those their data which is available on Google. So number one is, that is FHS, means Framingham Heart Study. It was launched, that was in the year 1948 from the city of Framingham, Massachusetts, and that is in USA. Number two, FHS. If I say FHS means Framingham Heart Study. FHS main objective is to study on the basis of long history, that is called, I call it observational science. Actually, they have focused mainly on observations for a long duration of time. So it is also very important science. Unless you study somebody's lifestyle, their habit, their behavior, all that is called life pattern, which is very important for cardiovascular disease. So observational science and experimental science, to study the large population on the basis of history, that is their genetic factor. Now lot of emphasis and focus is given on generation to generation, their genetic pre-programming, and everybody has to follow genetic pre-programming road. And some of the people, they have lot of pothole or bump on the road of genetic factor. And in modern age, with artificial intelligence data, if you are smart enough and if you are following all this study, you can very well managed by understanding on the basis of observational science. Population data on the basis of history. Number 3, FHS studies involve the health of various populations to uncover pattern trend of general population. If I say pattern trend, is all related to the habit, behavior, lifestyle. That is playing very important role, very crucial role. We cannot ignore our this trend and pattern of the population. Number 4, FHS study was based on identifying common factors or characteristics that contribute to cardiovascular disease over the years, and that is more than half century. So it's a very extensive, expensive observational data of thousands of people for 3 generations. Great grandfather, father, child. Number 5, FHS study is based on successful national study, multi-generational study. Means 3 generations, grandfather, father and son. That is called multi-generational study of family pattern, more genetic information for 3 generations. So they collected there for 3 generations their genetic information in the form of data. And in that case, number 6, FHS has expanded their study to include diverse population of different group, and so that the risk factor in this group can be very well understood. And they study on 15,000 people from 3 generations. FHS study focus on what they have identified on the basis of their long study, expensive study of 15,000 people. First, very highly risky factor is high blood pressure for heart attack. High blood pressure. Second, high cholesterol. And then rest of the other factors like obesity, then lifestyle, food, physical inactivity. But main focus they found that after study for 75 years, the contributory factors are there, but main are 2. First, blood pressure, you have to be very careful, and your cholesterol, that is LDL, HDL and LPA. And today it is in the year 2025, LPA is also very important, and discuss with your cardiologist. And that in the past 75 years, study has produced approximately 6,000 articles and research publications and in leading medical journal. And this study include, that is, high blood pressure is high risk factor, high cholesterol is high risk factor, then unhealthy diet, you should go for balanced diet, which should include antioxidant, anti-inflammatory compounds is also risk factor, obesity is a risk factor, physically inactive, sleep disorder, and maintaining healthy weight. They are all risk factor. But risk factor is low, moderate, and high. So your high risk factor are 2: high BP, blood pressure, cholesterol percentage. That you have to check. Then medium risk factor, all others are mentioned, and low risk factor means when all these parameters are okay, still you have risk factor. Nobody is free of risk factor. You should not think that if all parameters are okay, then you are free of risk. No. Go to Google and go to this FRAMINGHAM Heart risk factor study, fill the form, and they will let you know your percentage of risk factor. So with this I will stop. In the last but not least, I love to write. I love to read printed material, and it is my, I can say, on the basis of experience, advice to all parents to encourage their children for printed reading and writing habit every day, at least one page, and it will improve their, we can say, IQ level, their memory, and their overall cognitive behavior and intelligence. Thank you very much for watching the lecture.